Right now, across the Caribbean, a massive digital transformation is happening. It's a really high-stakes bet on the future, one that promises to completely modernize the region, but, it also comes with some serious pitfalls. So let's dive into this digital dilemma. And this quote right here, it really gets to the heart of the entire strategy. See, the thinking from folks at the UN Development Program is that for the Caribbean's small island developing states, or SIDS, going it alone just isn't an option anymore. The only way forward, they say, is to band together and become sovereign in the digital age.
All right, so here's the game plan for this explainer. First up, we're going to look at the grand vision, the big why behind this whole digital bet. Then we'll get into the incredible progress that's been made in building the actual digital backbone. After that, it's time for a reality check on the challenges that just won't go away. And finally, we'll wrap up by exploring the path forward to forging that truly digital future.
So, this first part is all about the motivation. And let's be clear, this is not just about governments buying a bunch of new computers. No, this is a full-on, coordinated strategy for economic survival, and it's backed by some of the biggest players in regional development.
So this whole idea, this vision of an integrated digital society has become a real rallying cry. And you've got the big guns. We're talking the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, CARICOM. They're all throwing their weight behind this. The logic is pretty straightforward, right? A single island nation might be small, but you unify them into one digital block, suddenly you've got a real force to reckon with in the global economy.
So how does a vision like that actually turn into reality on the ground? Well, when you look at the progress in laying the digital groundwork, honestly, it's been pretty remarkable. I mean, just look at that number. Thanks to big regional efforts like CARSIP, we're talking about a jump in high-speed internet coverage from just 30% back in 2012 to over 75% today. That's not a small bump. That is a massive leap forward. It's the literal foundation you need for any kind of modern digital economy. And all this progress is being fueled by some serious cash. The World Bank has this thing called the Caribbean Digital Transformation Project, or CARD-TP for short, and it's pumping millions into things like harmonizing laws, beefing up cybersecurity, and pushing digital finance, especially across the Eastern Caribbean. But this isn't just about cables and towers, It's about people. We're talking about over 11,000 folks getting trained in crucial IT skills. This is literally building the workforce, the new generation of digital workers and entrepreneurs for this whole new economy. So with all this effort, what does it actually look like in practice? Well, the latest UN rankings for e-government show a really mixed bag. You've got leaders like the Bahamas doing great, well above the world average. But then you look closer and things get interesting. Jamaica? They've actually jumped up 6 spots. But then there's Barbados, a country really known for its digital push, and they've dropped 12. It's a powerful reminder that just throwing money and effort at a problem doesn't automatically get you the results you want.
And yeah, that brings us to our reality check. Because for all that amazing progress, there's a whole other side to this story. A story about the stubborn problems that are really holding the region back. Okay, so this right here is the dilemma in a nutshell. You have all this great new infrastructure and this coordinated strategy, but on the other side, people aren't using the services. There's a huge digital divide, and the cybersecurity risks are just massive. The tech part is moving forward, but the human part, that's falling way behind. So let's dig into why. I mean, this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? If you're in the richest 20% of the population, there's a 75% chance you're using the internet. But if you're in the poorest 20%, that number plummets to just 37%. So here's the key takeaway. The problem isn't so much about whether there's an internet signal anymore. It's about whether people can afford it and whether they have the skills to use it. And then there's the trust issue. 4 million. That's how many cyber attack attempts Jamaica saw in just the first half of 2024 alone. Think about that. How are you supposed to get people to trust digital government or online banking when the threat level is that high? It's a huge, huge barrier to getting people on board. Okay, so this leads to a really fascinating and, frankly, a cautionary tale. But first, a super quick explainer. What is a central bank digital currency, or a CBDC? Just think of it as a digital version of a country's cash, issued and backed by the government itself. So like a digital dollar or a digital peso, not a cryptocurrency.
So the Bahamas went ahead and launched their sand dollar and Jamaica launched Jamdex. But then a report comes out from the Cato Institute and the finding is just brutal. It found, and I'm quoting here, near zero consumer reliance. Basically, despite all the government hype and even cash giveaways, nobody was using them, at least not organically.
Which leads to the big question, right? Was this a solution desperately looking for a problem to solve? All the evidence seems to point that way. For most people, the payment apps and services they already had were working just fine, and that's maybe the biggest lesson here. If you build tech just for the sake of tech, without solving a real-world problem for the user, it is pretty much doomed from the start.
Okay, so we've seen the huge potential and the serious roadblocks. Where does the region go from here? Let's talk about the game plan for forging that digital future.
So looking at what's on the horizon, the whole conversation is getting a lot smarter. It's not just about let's get AI, it's about how do we govern AI responsibly. People are looking at using things like blockchain to make really sensitive government stuff like citizenship applications more secure. And maybe most important, there's a huge push from businesses, like 84% of them, to train their own staff for these new digital skills. Plus, you have firms trying to pull in global investment to fund all of this.
So how do they pull all this off? Well, all the research and reports are pointing towards a pretty clear 5-part strategy. First, you have to get your own house in order with a whole-of-government approach. Break down those internal walls. Once you do that, you can focus on the big one, building trust by seriously investing in cybersecurity. Then, with that foundation of trust, you can finally go after the real roots of the digital divide, making it affordable and teaching the skills. Get those first 3 steps right, and that opens the door for step 4, creating a real, regional digital single market. And the golden rule that ties it all together? Step 5, you have to embrace user-centric design. Learn from the mistakes, like with the CBDCs, and put the actual user at the very center of every single thing you build.
And that really leaves us with the one big final question. Can all of these individual countries really commit to collective action to overcome their own limitations? The whole strategy, the whole vision for a digital Caribbean really hinges on the answer. And you know, how they answer that question isn't just about technology. It's going to shape the future of the entire region for generations to come.